Michelle here. Let's talk about Libra season. I've got a bunch of cards. We are going to start with the Soul's Journey Lesson cards. My information is in the description box below. I had this instance the other day where I had to drive into work because I was late and so I had to park and everything, and so on the way back it's a little bit different and I was a little overwhelmed getting out of the city, and I could not get a signal on my phone and I couldn't get my GPS to connect, and I was like, shoot. And in the back of my head I heard my guides be like, you don't need the GPS, you know the way home. And I was like, you're right, I do. I think I've just been leaning on the GPS as a bit of a crutch perhaps, but I've technically made that drive a couple of times before. So if that's resonating with you, I think that's kind of what the theme is going to be. That basically, like, you know the way home, you know what you're doing. I mean, you know, Libra being the scales and everything, I do think there is a sort of a karmic justice aspect to it too. We will find out. What are our big themes here? Let me see. This one. Adversity. Okay. This is even feeling like immediately like the way home, right? You might be in the middle of some adversity or overcoming something, but the lesson is like, this is the end of that thing. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Something new might come into your life. Things are ever changing, but I just feel like this is, it's like you've walked into the forest and you're like, oh no, maybe there was like this big battle with something and you're exhausted after it, and you're like, well, now I'm lost, you know, even though I'm safe now, I'm lost in the forest. And your guides are like, no, you know the way home because you got in here. There's also something that's been coming up a little bit for me, which has come up at various times, is this phrase, no one loves you like the adversary, which is that even the devils, the demons and the devils that we experience in this lifetime, in this world, they're here for us. Imagine yourself like, it's getting to be Halloween. You're like at a fright night. You're like in a, you're like in a haunted house or something, and there are a bunch of employees there who are dressed up scary, but they're not really monsters. They're just there to test you, it's like they're there for you to test yourself. So whenever there is something that's a little spooky that happens, it's kind of like a divine, overworked, underpaid, haunted house employee, you know, who's just trying to have a little fun, have a fun creative career themselves. Acceptance, yeah. I think too there's like an acceptance of where you're at in the labyrinth. Everything is a lot harder until you accept that this is a magical experience that you're having. Nothing is going to make sense, and if you're watching me, you're probably already on your spiritual journey, so you probably already know that. But this is such a great time leading up to Halloween to remember. They're even showing me this, like, this is the acceptance of, like, this is all happening in your head. There's that Harry Potter quote. What is it? It's like, Dumbledore, is this all in my head? And he's like, of course, Harry, but why does that mean it's not real? It's that whole thing. Like, this is happening in your head, but it's because your pineal gland is very powerful. You are navigating in a very complex spaceship right now who has a lot of feelings, and you think they're yours, but they're just the experience's feelings. That's getting a little bit too out there, because I think also I'm getting the impression that, like, if this wasn't the immediate last lesson you learned, it is something maybe that you struggle with, is staying grounded, even after recognizing, like, yes, this is a magical spiritual experience. It's also very much here right now. And respecting that this body is also a sacred vessel is important. I think sometimes people think, like, they learn about the Matrix and everything and they're like, oh, nothing's real then. It's like, no, we're saying everything's real. It's all on the table. So just a side note. But this might be a path that you haven't traversed in a while, Maybe you have been grounding in your body and you haven't really let yourself get to, or you've had something else that was going on. Like if we're going with this, like you're in the forest and you're like, I need the way out, and you know your guides are like, you do know the way out. This battle that you had to go through, I'm envisioning like a large wolf or something, who like speaks riddles, and you had to defeat them with the power of love or something like that. Yeah, I feel like you might be a little bit tired from whatever that experience was. And so this is to say then that, like, allow the forest and the labyrinth and the matrix to be appropriately scary, you know, when you're truly in somewhere, that's okay. But when you're safe, when you've overcome something, when you've shown your own strength to yourself, allow the universe and the divine to congratulate you and to love you and to nurse you back to health and to have fun with you. That's the most important part anyway. And that's really what will make you feel like yourself again, if it's maybe been a little while. Yeah. Trust in the divine order of things, the natural order of things. These are all mandalas. If you don't know what a mandala is, though, I think one of the key figures of it is the fact that it is impermanent. It's made out of sand, and then it is all dusted away, and they do another mandala. So your experience, okay, so if you're having issues with like maybe an underlying perfectionism issue, you cannot be perfect. You will die. None of this is permanent. There is only the meaning that you give your own life. And so really lean into that. If there's been any underlying tragedy surrounding it, get through that. Allow the woods to be as scary as you need them to be. If you haven't yet faced this monstrous wolf in the middle, keep going and do it, because you will win. It's designed for you to win. And it is also designed to be brushed away at the end for another mandala, another life, another something. It never ends. We keep on going. Okay, so the overall impression I'm getting is maybe there won't be a lot of, mercifully, maybe not a lot of new movement. I feel like maybe you're taking a rest. I think that this winter might be difficult in certain respects, and certainly we are all frogs in a boiling pot at the moment, you know, so take your rest wherever you can. Know that you are capable of anything, capable of getting through anything, and that you're never given anything you can't handle. However, if right now life is feeling boring to you, what you are learning is how to rest. And I think you'll need it, so indulge in it. If you have to think of it as an indulgence rather than a necessity, go on ahead and do that. Let's get more cards, because this was a very general overview. I think let's do some magic cards. And then also, I have my Dragon Wisdom deck. I think the dragons want to talk to us. I've been feeling my dragon guide around me a lot more recently, and I really have not been terribly connected. Only because I'm doing a lot of writing right now. So I'm gonna make an aside here that if you are a creative, an artiste, something like that, to do that. And to also not feel guilty if that is like the pinnacle of your experience. If you are feeling like, oh, I would do art or I would play music, but nothing. The healing properties of art cannot be overstated, truly. It's literally magic. I'll just say that. The art that you create benefits not only you, but everyone in your community and the world, even if you never show it to anybody. It's just the fact that it was made, that this like process of self-exploration was alchemized into a physical something just for the beauty of expression. Don't let anyone ever tell you that that's not important, because it's like so important. It's like criminal that that is not what is the most funded, you know, like in our schools and everything. But it's because it can change the world. It will change the world. That's the big thing. But I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm getting at least 50 years ahead of myself. Actually, the world's supposed to look pretty cool in about 40 years, so that's what I keep thinking of. Small increments, you know? Let's just get through today. Ooh! It's because in order for this new world to be born, the old one's gotta die. And right now we're like in the middle of it, and that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be on a sinking ship as this ship is sinking. Like, as literally the sinking ship. That's, I feel like, what we're experiencing sometimes as the collective. Like, sometimes there are just these sweeping, sourceless feelings of tragedy, but it's because there are tragedies going on in the world right now. Of course you feel them. It would be weirder if you didn't feel them. So I think we're really allowing death to hold us in their hand. As I've been speaking to my dragon guide a lot more recently, there has been, I think, some of the reason that I don't, or I guess I'm like working on it in my own writing and in my own art, is the concept of the fact that, like, oh, the divine kind of like is death. That, like, to fear it is to, like, deny the inevitability and this adversity. No one loves you like the adversary. No one loves you like the thing you are the scaredest of. Death. And to personify this part in yourself, there is already a part of you that has died, and they watch over you. They are your most trusted guide. This is we call the higher self. And not all, you know, there are higher selves and everything, but there is a version of you who is at the end of your life, who comes back, watches everything. You are your own spirit guide. And it is very difficult to accept life if you haven't accepted death as a friend yet. And I think a way to do this, a bridge, is through art. And as soon as you make art, you're like, oh my God, of course. But as an artist, if you're not making art all the time, you might find yourself prone to these bits of, like, despair sometimes. And I think that's because if artists aren't creating, they are destroying. I definitely feel like I'm speaking to a crowd of artists or writers or something, because, like, I really feel quite strongly about it. And for myself, I feel like that's really what saved me. Like, I don't know that there was any way for anyone to tell me, though. Like, the Tao that can be named is not the true Tao, right? There are some things that are just, because people say it all the time, like, oh, you've got to create, oh, you'll feel, you're just an artist, that's just the way. So there sometimes isn't a way for somebody to tell you. But if you've got a sneaking suspicion in the back of your mind, like, I have to create art, this is the season to do it. I'm just going, I don't know where that came from, but if you've been needing, this is your sign, yes, just keep making things. Okay, absolutely. And I think it's because this is how you will be able to walk through this reality into, like, the real world. It's almost like crossing the veil. It will prevent you from going insane as well, because you are taking this etheric and energetic feeling and expression, and you're literally making something physical, joining the worlds together. This will solidify you. It's also, and this is wild, but, like, the point of being a human is to eventually evolve into a god. And we haven't really been allowed to do that for a couple of thousand years. We got our rights taken away from us when we destroyed the world the first time, but we're working on it, and I think we're doing really good this time. So you can just go on ahead. You don't have to worry about if your community is doing this. You don't have to worry about if your friends or family think you're crazy. Just go on ahead and start the process, and they will follow you, because it's instinctively what we're supposed to be doing here. So they'll be like, ah, wow, this is a really scary process. And you'll be like, I know, spirituality and art and self-expression and sexuality and all of it's jumbled up together, friend, but I'm working on it, and see how well I'm doing, and it'll inspire other people to do it as well. Cool. Oh yes, and also all of these like adversarial experiences that you've had are also muses, and this is kind of a concept I've been struggling with for myself, exactly what the purpose of suffering is or can be, and I think that it's a very personal experience about what that wisdom is. But truly, you do not have to suffer when you are making art, but allow the suffering that you previously had inspire your art. Talk about it. It really matters. It does. Okay, we got a couple of guides here. Let's see. Yeah, cool. Okay. So we have this swamp, which is another death card. Tireless missionaries, a shadow cloak vampire, and this hedonist's trove. And this is telling me, like, yes, keep going. So you've experienced death in your lifetime, or satori, or, you know, like whatever it is, this connection to the divine. You're working really tirelessly. Once you dedicate yourself, you kind of can't not. Like, once you've gone through it, you're like, oh my gosh, my guides are here, and I'm a part of this celestial family. Hell yeah. If you really like give into that, allow yourself to live for this work and this artistic self-expression and everything, you're gonna be, look how cool you are. Look at you, like, yes, that's me. Oh, and a vampire lives forever. Once you realize, like, oh, the death that we experience here is not true death. Death is something totally different. This is this, like, look at this treasure, and this is defeating this dragon here. So my dragon guides are funny, because they are like, oh no, we messed that up for you. You're welcome. And I'm like, why would you mess that up for me? And they're like, so that you could overcome it. Duh. So you can become strong like us. And I'm like, all right, this is some psycho shit. But yeah, some of your guides will purposely mess things up for you. Or, you know, like they will watch you and guide you through a self-sabotage, because they're like, yeah, that wasn't for you. We needed you to get to the other side of it. And I think it just happens to be an easier time of the year once it gets to be fall and things are dying around us naturally, plants and everything, where we are somehow like more comfortable, maybe acknowledging change/death, something like that. Yeah, interesting. This is not where I thought this reading was going. But yeah, it's like, you know, the way home, and the way home is to an inevitable resting place. And so every time that we do rest and we dream and we sleep and we do all of these things, we kind of like prepare ourselves almost for death, and that it's not scary at all. It's just like what's happening. It's the natural life cycle. I really like the I think sort of a classic, the reason that everyone uses the butterfly as this transformational metaphor is the fact that it really is very similar to the human experience, where you are one thing and then you are broken down and then you are reborn, and then it's like a totally different life. But in so much of human history that we know of, we were only ever caterpillars and not really allowed to become butterflies. So please, if you feel like you are becoming a butterfly, don't be scared, and don't be worried if all the other caterpillars around you are like, don't do it, that's unnatural, this is weird. Be like, listen, I gotta see this through. And maybe I need some time off from you, maybe I'm gonna go off into the forest and find myself or whatever, but I need to heed the call. That butterfly call. Okay, cool. So let's see what our dragons have to say about it. There are all sorts of different types of dragons too. if you are drawn to any types of dragons also, they're just kind of being like, keep going down that dragon hole, you know, like that rabbit hole, just keep going down it. I love working with the dragons. They're all very different from each other, but have that similar, like, they're definitely a proponent of the, like, love is discipline, and love is doing the hard thing, and love is doing the hard thing even though it's, you know, but it's the right thing. They're very, and I think that's why they seem like they're very honor bound. I don't know that it's necessarily honor, but it's something like that. They're very devoted to the divine in a way that is, like, uncompromising, which I think is kind of rare these days. We're all very like a little bit obsessed with kindness or like niceties, and they're kind of like, no, you can really mess someone up by being that way, by hindering them from getting their karma. Oh yes, at the beginning of this I talked about how, like, oh, is there karmic retribution? Yes. Okay, so this is part of their message they want to start out with then. That, like, if someone did you dirty, or they were really just not a good fit, they just weren't fitting in the way that felt like you felt like your best self around them, that kind of thing, go on ahead and never talk to them again. Don't even worry about that. Let people miss you. Let people have to deal with the consequences of their own actions. Don't, you can forgive people, but you don't have to trust them, because new people will come in, and sometimes if you don't know to cut someone off, like, that was the lesson. The lesson was, hey, go on ahead and let the dragons deal with them. All right, you just relax, you rest. This is kind of like, yeah, like the wolf in the woods, you know, this metaphor of being in the forest, not knowing your way home, but yes, you do, blah, blah, blah. Like, just take the walk out of the forest. Let the wolf be handled by the wolf deities, like the wolf medicine, you know? Because it might be that this person wants to stay a wolf and that the divine needs them as a wolf. I get the impression, though, in this case, if you have dealt with someone who you're like, but they're not really like that, oh, but no one knows them, like, the divine knows them that well, so don't worry about it. All right, my cat actually just ran out of the yard, and a squirrel just came up over the fence and was like, bark, 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 you know, that little squirrel noise they make. So she's kind of getting into trouble. I think that the message here is kind of like from my dragon guide, like, we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him for you, don't worry. So, but like in a way that makes sense for them in their journey. Oh, she's back. She just ran up a tree. She's so clever. Look at, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm just staring at these. I just love, like, I just love these cards. This is such a fun reading. All right, so we got home, and we got shadows, and we've got water chalice. I think this is like, just keep walking home. Just keep going in the direction that you are going in. You're on the right path. Whoever was an adversary, was sent in this loving way to level you up, you know, that kind of thing. And if that's too confusing, or that's like, what are you talking about? Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Just keep doing your healing. Just do whatever you were doing. I think these shadows, like this shadow part of yourself that you're now comfortable in, is such a blessing, because there is always going to be someone coming around looking to see, oh, is this someone I can take advantage of? Or like, oh, is this somewhere that I can, in a totally unconscious way, half the time. But in order for you to also give off the subconscious vibe of like, don't mess with me, sometimes we have to go through some traumatic things. And that also fills our cup with divine universal love, because it's like the love of self that comes from watching yourself get yourself through something and being like, wow, they're so cool and strong and I trust them. Like, I'm so happy to be myself. Like, look at how much I accomplished. Look at me on my way home. Look at me, yeah, like integrating my shadow parts of myself. It's really all a part of finding faith in yourself to become a little god, you know? Who's gonna have faith in you if you don't have faith in you? Hot dog. Well, this is beautiful. Didn't really, I was surprised at where I went. Happy though. I really think that there's just this big congratulations. Allow the dragons to love and appreciate and honor you. Don't be willy-nilly taking people back who might have screwed you over. So like, say you're in a good place, or like maybe when you do get into a good place, stop talking to those people who were not good to you beforehand. If loneliness is an issue for you, that's not the way to resolve it. That's like drinking poison when you're thirsty. Then you've got another problem on your hands. So don't go back. Stop talking to these people, because they're just going to evoke a wounded part of yourself. So, but yeah, have fun. Enjoy your own company. You are your own best friend. You decided to incarnate as the person that you are now because like this is your favorite person. Who else would you want to be? So just a little food for thought. And yeah, looks good. All my information is in my description. If you want a reading, I'd love to meet you. Please like and share and subscribe and do all of that stuff. And I'll see you later. Bye.